Alrighty, so today we are finally going to finish up the review of match week number 35, and tomorrow we are going to have two more games. Both of them, of course, are makeup games for games that didn't happen earlier, so I'll be doing the review of those games, but I'll definitely be doing a couple of moving forward series episode in these next couple of days, and then, of course, talk about Charlotte record 9 game winning streak as well and reflect on that. So, yeah, a lot of video for me to do, and I do apologize again in advance the fact that it took so long for me to finish up the two-part review of match week number 35. But with that being said, let us begin by talking about the first game, and that of course is Dallas. So if the playoffs started today, this would be the matchup we would see in the Western Conference playing match, and maybe this could be a preview too, as what we'll see in the Western Conference playing round. Because if that, of course, is the case, the good news for the Rapids is that as it stands, they'll of course be hosting Dallas in the playing round. But the bad news is Dallas is catching up on them, and Dallas has been one of the more under the radar team lately. They have been in a really good form. So good form the fact that they have now got themselves above the red line and they are not slowing down anytime soon. Now, in the first half, Ibiaga had a shot that struck the post as that was Dallas' first shot. Dallas was definitely on the front foot early, looking to try to get the lead, and they do. As in the 13th minute, Pedro Musa would score from Farrington and more to give Dallas a 1-0 lead. That lead only lasted 8 minutes because in the 21st minute, Calvin Harris would score to tie the game up at 1 apiece. And while it was a good goal, for Calvin Harris, I mean, Jacob Jackson, he would definitely want to have this one back. I mean, just got completely wrong footed there on a long range effort. And because of that, yeah, when you get wrong foot like that as a goalkeeper, that is definitely not a great feeling. But nevertheless, the game was tied up at 1 apiece. Cappies did look to answer, but he was denied by Stefan. But then the 36th minute, he would not be denied here as he scored his first career MLS goal from Delgado and Kaique. Though for Stefan, yeah, that is one that he also does not want to look back. So both of these goalkeepers kind of giving up a bit of a softy goal early on in this one. I think the Stefan one was probably worse because that is one that Stefan should save it. It wasn't really hit relatively well from Cappies there, but nevertheless, Cappies will take it, and certainly Dallas would take it. They're leading 2-1 up to this point, and then he was looking for another one there, but he puts it high this time, the 43rd minute. The momentum was definitely with Dallas. They were pressing to try to get another. Kamungo would then puts it high from close in the fourth minute stoppage time, but we do head to halftime with Dallas leading 2-1. In the second half, Kamungo would slice it wide from close before Rafael Santos would put it wide from long range. Kamungo would then puts it right to Stefan in the 58th minute before Jackson denied Aronson from close range. So both of these teams were definitely exchanging some chances early on, but the question is, who can get that next goal? Well, Santos tried to do so. He did a little crawl shot there, but it struck the post from the right corner. Musa with that then was in on goal there, but he was absolutely robbed by Stefan there. So yeah, that's kind of the thing about Zach Stefan at times this season. And again, Zach Stefan at times he have shown his old form with Columbus being an unstoppable goalkeeper, but then there's also times where he let off softy goals like what we saw with the second goal that he gave up for Dallas. But at the same time, in that moment where Musa of course struck it, that was a 2v0 opportunity for Dallas. When you have a 2v0 opportunity, you got to bury it, no matter how the circumstance it is. And because that didn't happen, you just kind of had a sense is that going to come back to haunt Dallas because as long as this is 2-1, Colorado, they have had their history this season in terms of coming back and scoring late goals. Especially on the road as well. Kamungo then had a shot that was clear off the line by Maxo before Stefan denied Julio from close range. Despite the howler, like I said, Stefan started to single-handedly trying to keep the Rapids in this game, and it looked like they got themselves the equalizer in the 77th minute when Darren Yappy puts it into the back net. Problem was, the flag did not agree with him, so the goal was chopped off for offside, and yeah, that is definitely the warning sign. I mean, I've said this before with Dallas not putting the game away and getting that third goal. I mean, I'm pretty sure that is a huge warning sign there because Colorado has a knack in terms of able to score late goals to turn things around. And it feels like Dallas kind of read that warning sign because in the 80th minute, they do put the game away, and it's actually Maxo, the one is credited as an own goal. I'm not quite sure it still counted as an own goal. I'm pretty sure it should have been counted toward Pedrino as well, because Pedrino actually hits this one that deflected off of Maxo. I think the shot from Pedrino was on target as well. So if it even if it comes off a deflection, I think you got to give it to the attacker Pedrino there. But as it stands, it still stands as an own goal for Dallas. But they wouldn't care because they're now leading 3-1 up to this point. Julio trying to make it 4-1, but he puts it wide from close range, and that third goal really was a huge difference for Dallas. It not only give them a huge sigh of relief. But yeah, the Rapids that third goal feel like a crushing blow for their chances to come back. They lose this one 3-1 in this game. Shots in this one, 17 shots for the 9 that the Rapids had, 3 shots on goal for the 7 that Dallas had, 4 shots off target for the 1 that Colorado has. Both teams had 5 shots that was blocked, and possession wise, 53% possession compared to 47% possession that Dallas has in this game. And like I said, if the playoffs started today, this would be the matchup we will see in the play in round, and we'll see whether or not if this is going to be happening in Dallas or is this going to be happening in Colorado and in Commerce City. Either way, if this is going to be the matchup we're going to see in the playing round, I think this matchup would favor Dallas, considering Dallas has been in a relatively good run of form. Colorado is just such a mystery team. I mean, you just don't know on any given day, are they going to look like a contender in the Western Conference or look like a wooden spoon table. That's kind of the things that's got to frustrate Rapids fan, because there's just no consistency that is shown with this team, and we know that whenever there's teams that go into the playoffs and doesn't show any consistency whatsoever, they don't usually go deep into the playoffs. They might be lucky in terms of winning one playoff game, but they don't usually go deep into the playoffs. Now, moving on in terms of the next game, and before I move on to the next game, let me just plug in my laptop, because I just realized it's about to run out of battery. Don't want to run out of battery before the video is over. But anyway, moving on in the next game, making sure the board is still clear, is Houston and the Portland Timbers. And boy, did the Dynamo needed this one. So this is a game that, as I mentioned, with a couple of team that is in must win mode, especially in the mix of the playoff race. Houston is one of those teams that is in the mix for the playoff race, though when you look at how they've been playing, it feels like they're going the wrong direction in terms of that playoff race. But they needed this one, and in many ways, they almost did it again in this game, like they did against the Galaxy, where they weren't able to kill this game off. They let the Timbers kind of back into this game. Lucky for them this time, they didn't give up a late goal like they did against the Galaxy. Now, in the first half, Pantemis would deny an alley from close before I thought Houston was on the front foot. They were looking for the opener, especially helping their playoff causes as well. McGlynn would then hit it right to Pantemis. The shots were 5-0 for the Dynamo early on, so it was all Dynamo early in this one. The Timbers, clearly they did not show up in this game whatsoever. Linger would hit it wide from range before Anthony finally gets the first shot for the Timbers, but he was denied by Bond in the 21st minute. And Alley then puts it wide from close. The Dynamo continue to press for the opener, but you just kind of have a sense, can they finally find their finishing? Which again this season it's been a struggle at times, where we have seen games where the Dynamo have looked good, at least on the attacking end, but they're just not being clinical in terms of their finishing. Mora would then head it wide from close in the 39th minute, but then in the 44th minute, Houston finally gets that opening going. What a huge sigh of relief that has to be for Dynamo fans, consider the pressure they've been putting and hasn't really paid off. But it finally paid off in the 44th minute as Ezekiel Ponce would score from McGlynn there to give the Dynamo a 1-0 lead, and that would be the scoreline heading into the second half. Now, heading into the second half, not much really happened, at least at the start of the second half. Valde would then hit one right to Bond in the 59th minute before McGlynn would puts it wide from long range. Ponce then hits it wide from close in the 74th minute. Houston continued to have some chances to get the second goal, but like I said, can they find that second goal and kill this game off? Because you just kind of sense the longer they hold this to 1-0, they might get PTSD in terms of what happened in the Galaxy game. Because in the 78th minute, the post would deny Rojas from long range. So yeah, the Dynamo were inches away from having their another deja vu moment like they did against the Galaxy. Not able to hold on to the 1-0 lead. Though I mean, would you call this a deja vu moment when it happened in the 78th minute in this time potentially, compared to when they give up late in that game against the Galaxy. But nevertheless, in the 85th minute, Pantemis would deny McGlynn from close, and then he absolutely robbed Andrade, who had a point blank effort here. And you just kind of had a sense that these missed chances are going to come back to bite Houston big time. Smith would then head it wide from the corner before the post would deny DaCosta in the near post. So yeah, the Dynamo, if they make it to the playoffs, they better be kissing that post, because the post a couple of times saved them in this one. And like I said, Houston, they are just on a tight ropes and just trying to survive the 3 minutes of stoppage time. And I think they're thankful the fact that there's only 3 minutes stoppage time, because if this would have gone a little bit longer, I don't know if the Houston Dynamo would have been able to walk away with all 3 points. But nevertheless, they do walk away with all 3 points, and there's massive 3 points to keep them in the mix of the playoff race. The shots in this one, 21 shots for the 9 that the Timbers had, 4 shots on goal for the 7 that Houston had, 1 shot off target for the 5 that Houston had, 7 shots that was blocked for the 1 that the Timbers had, and possession-wise, 53% possession compared to the 47% possession that the Portland Timbers has in this game. And for the Timbers, it's the same thing I said about the Colorado Rapids. They're a very inconsistent team, and that's gonna frustrate Timbers fan, because you just kind of feel like this is like the Timbers that we've seen in the past, where we know the Timbers fan they'll be glad that the team, of course, will make it to the playoff again, but it just kind of feels like that's kind of the bare minimum. This team hasn't really gone pretty deep in the playoffs, besides what we saw in 2021 when they made it to MLS Cup. It's been a lot of first round exit, and with how inconsistent they've been playing, it just feels like they're heading that direction again, and that's not going to make any Timbers fan happy whatsoever. Now, moving on in terms of the next match is Vancouver and Sporting KC. So Sporting KC, of course, officially eliminated from playoff contention after this loss, but they definitely had their moments in this game against the Whitecaps. But unfortunately, when you face against a good team like the Vancouver Whitecaps, you have to punish them in terms of the chances that you're giving. Because if you don't punish them in terms of the chances that you're getting, yeah, it's no surprise the Whitecaps were able to walk away with all 3 points. And it also helped the fact that they scored just 2 minutes into this game, as Ocampo would score from Sabi to give the Whitecaps a 1-0 lead. It was the game first shot as well. Tommy did look to respond on the free kick, but his shot was deflected wide before Cabrera, which struck the post from close range. So what a moment that would have been for Kenji Cabrera, though that will foreshadow in terms of a big moment happened to him in this game as well. But there was no doubt that Sporting's back line, they had no answer in terms of the pullback that the Whitecaps had, especially the speed that the Whitecaps have produced. This is a team that when you face against the Vancouver Whitecaps, you got to be worried about the speed, especially on the wing. They have some very good speedy player on the wing, especially now that they have pretty much almost their entire roster back to full strength. In the 30th minute, Sabi would put it wide from close, but then in the 43rd minute, Kenji Cabrera would score his first career MLS goal. So he scored here from Ahmed to give the Whitecaps a 2-0 lead. And while it was a great moment for the youngster there, yeah, Polchgam, he would definitely want to have this back, because again, Polchgam for the most part this season has been pretty good, but this is one that he would definitely want to want to not look back with the way that he was just beaten way too easily in the near post. Like when you're a goalkeeper, you have to protect that near post there, and he didn't do a good job of it. And just like that, it was 2-0 in favor of Vancouver. We then had some coming together between both of these teams. Definitely did not see that coming, consider the fact that this game wasn't really hotly tempered whatsoever. But yeah, the Bluebirds were definitely out. Before we even hit the full time whistle, the Bluebirds were definitely loud, and I can understand why Sporting KC fans are frustrated with this team. It's been another miserable full season for them, and as I'll talk about in the moving forward series, it just feels like this team is definitely heading toward a rebuild, or at least some sort of retooling heading into next season. But as we head to halftime with Vancouver leading 2-0 in the second half, we have Davis puts one back to Missouri from long range in the 48th minute before Muniz would puts it wide from long range, and I thought it was a much better start for Sporting KC. They were started getting a lot of the chances, but unfortunately a lot of these chances were low percentage shot, which the Whitecaps were happy to give up on. Muniz that had a shot that was deflected and goes wide. There was a huge shout for an illegal pass. They did go to VAR to sort of, or actually no, they didn't go to VAR, but there was a huge shout for an illegal back pass there on the Vancouver Whitecaps. It wasn't isn't given. Takaoka would then deny Tommy, but then he would recycle, and Munoz had a second chance here, but he was also denied by Takaoka there as well. So again, some big opportunity for Sporting KC. They were pressing hard to try to get one back, but now the question is, can they beat Takaoka, who is trying to keep this clean sheet in his hand? Polshkam would then deny Ahmed from close range before he denied Nelson from close in the 76th minute. It feels like Vancouver maybe kind of woke up a little bit, realizing that, yeah, let's not just kind of put off the gas way too early in this one, trying to get that third goal. Garcia would then put it onto the roof of the net in the first man stoppage time, but in the end, the Vancouver does hold on to win 2-0 in this one. The shots in this one, 12 shots with the 10 that Sporting KC had. On the website, it says there's one shot on goal compared to 4 that Vancouver has. I think that's wrong. It should have been 2 because, again, the double save by Takoga. I don't know why they only registered as one shot on goal. 3 shots off target with the 2 that Vancouver has. 5 shots that was blocked with the 6 that Sporting KC had. And possession-wise, 52% possession compared to 48% possession that Sporting KC has in this game. And I feel like Sporting KC is kind of starting to have the same problem as New England has, where, it's a team that has been having a miserable season, but they're not playing bad lately. I mean, they have shown in games that they can create chances and basically really troubled the much superior opposition at times. But the problem is they just could not put the ball into back and then show their clinical finishing. That's kind of a theme, at least in terms of some of these bad teams facing against good opponent, where when they are given the chance to do so, to try to put away chances to maybe cause an upset, they usually don't do that more times or not. Now, moving on in terms of the next game is Cincinnati and the Galaxy, and I feel like this game was a reminiscent of what we saw last season with the Galaxy because last season I talked about the Galaxy of them winning the MLS Cup, and I talked about multiple times in the regular season that it's not a Galaxy game, but there's just incredible amount of shots that has happened in a game, and defense pretty much was kind of put aside at times, and it feels like that was the case in this one as well. I mean, defense was kind of been put to the side at time with how good both attack was, and not even a red card in this game for the Galaxy slow down their attack as well. But in the first half, Nelson with the game's first shot, but he missed wide from long range before Mikovic would deny Denke from close in the 6th minute. Denke would then flash one wide from close range in the 9th minute, as Cincinnati did start to dictate the game a little bit, looking to try to get the opening goal. And they do exactly that. In fact, they literally do it right as I finish writing it. So talk about me manifesting a goal for Cincinnati. But is Encheke, he scored from Evander to give Cincinnati a 1-0 lead. Peck did look to answer, but he was denied by Lauro in the 12th minute. And then Evander would put it just high from close range. The shot were 5-2 for Cincinnati early in this one. There was a lot of shot early in this one, and it's going to be kind of a theme in terms of this game as well, where pretty much the defensive reinforcement by both of these teams were pretty lacking for the most part. The post would then deny Peck from close in the 16th minute before Lauro would deny Paintsville from close range, as now all of a sudden the Galaxy were pushing to try to get themselves the opening goal and try to tie this game up, but instead, completely against the run of play, Cincinnati would double their lead. It's Brenner. He scored his second goal for Cincinnati in his second stint with the team from Evander and Denke to make it 2-0 in favor of Cincinnati. Don't be surprised if we're going to see that trio being on the goal scoring and also the primary and secondary assists as well, because yeah, that's the free-headed monster for Cincinnati now with Evander, Denke, and Brenner really started to get going again. This is definitely a team that could be a fear of heading into the playoffs. In the 36th minute, Painto did look to answer, but he hits it right to Lauro before Orejano had a shot that was actually spilled by Mikovic, and he was able to gather on the second attempt before anyone counts on it. But in the 40th minute, Galaxy does get the equalizer, or at least actually not the equalizer, but get one back in this game, as Joseph Painto would score for Fagundes to make it 2-1 in this one, and then Painto tried to tie it relatively quickly after he scored to get one back, but he was denied by Lauro from close range. There was no doubt the momentum was with the Galaxy looking to try to get the equalizer, and I even wrote Cincinnati, it feels like they need halftime because, again, with how open this game is, I just had a feeling we were not done when it comes to the goal scoring chart. But instead, on the other end, Cincinnati had a chance to make it 3-1 if it wasn't for Mikovic denying Evander from long range. But we do head to halftime with Cincinnati leading 2-1. In the second half, Isaiah Parente unfortunately gets a second yellow card here, so the Galaxy were down to 10 men. But as I said earlier before, not even a red card seemed like it determined the Galaxy, because there were times where the Galaxy was still attacking even though they were down to 10 men. They were absolutely fearless in this one. Benkei would then heads it wide from close in the 52nd minute before Evander looked like he made it 3-1. Problem was the flag did not agree with him there, so the goal was disallowed for offside. And then Yoshida would head it wide from close in the 50th minute. And for the most part, again, the Galaxy, they were fearless. They still looked decent on the attack despite down a man in this one. Denke would then puts it wide from close in the 65th minute before in the 69th minute Peck would miss one from close. And really, as the time winds down, the Galaxy, they continue to push for the equalizer. I mean, you wouldn't have guessed it that they were down a man in this one if you just don't look at the score bug in terms of seeing the Galaxy have a red card. You would have assumed this was an 11v11 battle, because again, there were just still chances that they were creating, still being aggressive. And I guess there's a reason why that is the case, because again, the Galaxy, they really have nothing to play for. So why not be aggressive? A loss against Cincinnati isn't really gonna hurt their cause. So yeah, it kind of makes sense that Greg Vanny, he's gonna continue to stay aggressive and kind of play the spoiler road a little bit, especially in the supporter shield race with Cincinnati right in the mix of it as well. Peck would then hits it right to Loro in the 84th minute, but in the 86th minute, after Mikovic denied Evander from long range, in the 88th minute, Brendan would score. He scored from Evander of his second goal of the game to make it 3-2 in favor, or 3-1 in favor of Cincinnati. But then in the first minute of stoppage time, Cuevas would score from Painso to make it 3-2 in this one. So just as you thought that Brenner maybe turned the lights out with getting that third goal in this game, yeah, the Galaxy says not so fast, because now all of a sudden they're back into this game with a couple of minutes of stoppage time. And despite the fact that, as I mentioned, it was a kind of a crazy game in this one, there wasn't really too much to happen in the latter part. I guess you could say that the reason why Cincinnati maybe give the Galaxy one back is this is just kind of part of the Pat Nolan master plan. It feels like it's death, taxes, and a Pat Nolan Cincinnati winning by one goal. Like they love winning games by one goal. They can't win games with two goals. It's almost like given in their narrative this season. And as a result, again, it's kind of unsurprising the fact that they decided that, you know what, we're gonna give the Galaxy a generous goal back, because we want to continue that narrative of us only winning by one goal, which that was the case in this one, with Cincinnati winning 3-2 in this one. The shots in this one, I mean, I said before, this was a game where defense was kind of optional and there was a lot of shots. About 23 shots compared to 22 that Cincinnati has had in this game. I think this is probably the first time this season we've seen both teams hitting 20 plus shots. 8 shots on goal for the 10 that Cincinnati has, 6 shots off target for the 7 that the Galaxy had, 7 shots that was blocked compared to the 4 that Cincinnati has, and possession wise, 53% possession compared to the 47% possession that the Galaxy has in this game. And like I said, this just feels like a very Galaxy game from last season. But unfortunately, unlike last season where they were mostly on the winning side in these kind of games, they're not on the winning side this time. And a big part is because they are still missing some talented player. And I think it's kind of also safe to say that Ricky Puig is not going to play this season. I mean, I know maybe Greg Vanny is hinting the fact that he may be able to come back by the end of the season, but I don't blame the fact that he decided not bring Puig back to this season, mainly because there's really nothing to fight for the rest of the season. So why would you want to put your star player back in this game when there's really nothing to play for, and you risk the fact that he might re-aggravate that ACL injury that he came back from just recently. But nevertheless, for Cincinnati, I mean, again, it wasn't the most convincing way. But hey, again, it's that one goal narrative. They have to win by one goal. They're going to continue to rack up points and continue to put some pressure now back on the Philadelphia Union in terms of getting that top spot. Heck, they're also putting the pressure on Vancouver as well in terms of getting that supporter shield spot. And as I said, the supporter shield race, it's definitely going to come down to the wire this season again. But with that being said, I am actually going to manually switch the board, because why not? There's no point in terms of switching the board by stopping video. Oops, that clip or just blew up out almost to the fan. By the way, I should have put the fan on because it actually is a very hot day today here in the Bay Area, which I'm not surprised because for whatever reason in September we always get like the hottest weather here in the Bay Area. But speaking of the Bay Area, as I put this board back in or put the clipper back in and check to make sure the video is not blurry or whatsoever. But yeah, speaking of the Bay Area, we got the next game that feature a Bay Area team, that is the San Jose Earthquakes versus St. Louis. So coming into this game, I mentioned for the Quakes, they have to win this one. This was an absolute must-win game in terms of trying to keep their playoff hopes alive, and yeah, they did not win this game. And as I said before in the preview of the fact that if they don't win this game, they're done in terms of their playoff hope. And I'm going to withstand that. I think this season is done for the Quakes. I mean, I know they're still in the hunt of it. And when you look at where they are in the standings, which they're actually now outside the playoff line. And I know it could be very misleading, the fact that they're only like 2 points out, but they have played more games than most teams are in the playoff race, and the teams around them in the playoff race does have a game in hand over them, and not to mention their schedule remaining is probably the toughest out of the teams that is in the playoff race right now, and I just don't see it. And honestly, I feel like this game is pretty much a huge microcosm in terms of the Quakes season, and just kind of a summary of why the Quakes find themselves in the spot that they are currently right now, potentially once again missing out on the playoffs. Now, with the first half, Klaus would puts it wide on the doorstep of goal, but then the 10th minute, St. Louis takes the lead as McSorley would score from Klaus and Durkin to make it 1-0 in favor of St. Louis. They mentioned that's McSorley's first career MLS goal. I actually didn't believe that. I feel like he scored a goal before for St. Louis, but nevertheless, the broadcast says that is his first career MLS goal. So congratulations to him on that. It's kind of interesting the fact that we have 3 players this week score their first career MLS goal. You usually do not see players score first career MLS goal this deep into the season, but here we are. But in a must-win game in this one, that was the last thing the Quakes needed in this one. They cannot be falling behind 1-0, especially against a team that they have never been before, and to this day that statement remains the same. Romney did look to answer, but he hits it right to Berkey before Buda would puts it wide off with the deflection. As the Quakes finally realize that, yeah, this is a must-win game because they definitely did not start on time and treat it like a must-win game. They were now pressing to try to get the equalizer. Arango had a header that was deflected wide before Romney heads it wide for the corner in the 18th minute. But then the 19th minute, Marcel Harto would score from McSorley to give St. Louis a 2-0 lead. Definitely in contention of a goal to week because that was an absolute bang there from Marcel Harto. And yeah, after that goal, of course, has happened. I mean, that's also one of those goals where you kind of had to tip your hat off of your opponent in terms of scoring. But after seeing that, I mean, turn out the lights. This season is over. I mean, I when I saw that second goal goes in, I just feel like, yep, forget about this season. It's see you next season, Mo, for the Quakes. And I know some people might think I'm being a little over dramatic because it's only the 20th minute and the Quakes are only down by 2-0. And I know St. Louis has their habit in terms of giving up late goals, but this season it just feels like with the way how it's been playing for the Quakes this year, and it's very rare I see the Quakes come back from multi-goal deficit. That Goonies era kind of Quakes team, yeah, that doesn't exist with this team whatsoever. And that I just feel like with this being 2-0 and with the way that the defense is gonna continue to get gashed because of them pushing man forward, yeah, turn out the lights. The season is done for the Quakes in the 20th minute. Bumgarner, though, almost gifted the Quakes a goal back as he almost scored an own goal there, but was saved by the post before McSorley hits it right to Danielle in the 27th minute before Judd would heads it wide for the corner. But then in the 29th minute, a false hope happened as a penalty was given to the Quakes after Pompeo brought down Arango in the box. So here comes Chicho Arango to try to get one back for the Quakes. He does exactly that to give a little false hope in terms of the fact that the Quakes would come back in this game. Buddha would then hits it right to Berkey, despite the fact that he was wide open in the back post. That shot also kind of sums up in terms of the clinical finishing that the Quakes have shown this season. It is alarming, and even at times kind of baffling of the fact that the Quakes are way overperforming the expectancy goal this season, or way underperforming the expectancy goal that is this season, and have so many of these games where they have some really good opportunity and they don't put it away and it comes back to haunt the team. And a little spoiler out, this would be kind of the case once again. In this one where the Quakes were being wasteful in front of goal, and as a result, again, I'm on the losing side. Rongo would then flash one wide from long range, but then the 45th minute, McSorley would score again. So he scored his second career MLS goal from João Claus to make it get 3-1 up to this point. And yeah, that is the last thing that the Quakes would want to do. I mean, you're already the down in this game. Last thing is to give up a goal right on the stroke of halftime. So we go to halftime with St. Louis winning 3-1 in this one. In the 49th minute, Buddha would then head it wide from close range, as it feels like the Quakes are kind of back to where they left off and continue to be wasteful in front of goal. Berkey then denied from close, and then there was another shout for a penalty for the Quakes, this time not given. Good would then heads it over, despite he had a free header there in the 59th minute. It's just not happening for the Quakes. I mean, no matter what kind of opportunity that they have, they simply can't finish. Danielle would then deny Klaus from close range, and then Orongo looked like he was about to walk this one in terms of where he was with this opportunity, and yet somehow in some way McSorley cleared that ball away. I mean, at that point, I just kind of burst into laughter. Like I immediately wrote LMAO or maybe LMFAO too, because honestly, you just cannot write this up. I mean, I've mentioned so many times this season in terms of the Quakes are being wasteful in front of goal, but that moment by Chicho Rongo and that chance alone in that attacking sequence. I mean, if there is not a way that kind of is a way that perfectly summarize the bad finishing that the Quakes have been doing throughout the season, I don't know what is. I mean that was just kind of hilarious to see. And again, as I said throughout me talk about this game, I didn't think the Quakes were gonna score another goal in this one. Like unless if St. Louis somehow find a way to score an own goal in this one, it just feels like it's one of those games again for the Quakes where they just have no finishing ability in front of goal whatsoever. Now, on the other end, Daniel would romp Claus off a bullet header, but then he was up for grabs, and somehow, in some way, that one was clear off the line. So St. Louis actually came close to make it 4-1. And again, they had their opportunity too to score more goals because, the Quakes were pushing so many men forward where they were leaving gaps left, right, and center on the back line. Berkey would then deny Orongo from close, and then he denied Orongo again from close range in the 80th minute. The shots were 21-17 for the Quakes, 9-6 on target for the Quakes, but the scoreline says 3-1 in favor of St. Louis. Berkey then denied Orongo on a looping header in the 86th minute. The boos rained out in a big way at full time. In fact, the Ultra, the supporter group for the Quakes, even did the team chant, which again, I mean that's just kind of reminiscent in terms of how things have gone for the Quakes, and again the elephant in the room in terms of this team and why they have been so bad in the last couple of years. We already know who it is, and it's no surprise that even though he announced that he is going to sell the team, and I'm not even going to mention his name just so I don't think he deserves any credit. There still haven't been any news in terms of it, and that makes me a little nervous because of the way that again, are we gonna see a very a Minnesota Twins situation where our own ownership group said we're gonna sell the team, but then they said nah, on second thoughts we're not going to do it, and the Quakes are continue to trap in this purgatory, or I wouldn't even say purgatory, but almost like a hellhole that they're in for the past 4 years, but. Yeah, in the end, St. Louis gets the 3-1 win in this one. The shots in this one, 23 shots for the 18 that St. Louis had, 11 shots on goal for the 6 that St. Louis had. The fact that they had 11 shots on goal and the only goal that was scored in this game was from the penalty spot, absolute pathetic finishing to the highest order for the Quakes. 6 shots off target with the 2 that St. Louis had. No shots that was blocked with the 5 that the Quakes had. And possession-wise, 56% possession compared to the 44% possession that St. Louis has in this game. And like I said before, Quakes are done. I'm just gonna be thinking about see you next season mode, or maybe just kind of waiting for the day when we finally get the announcement that that certain person is officially going to sell the team. Because when that announcement does finally happen, the Quakes are finally out of the shackle. The Quakes will feel like they won their version of MLS Cup, and now we might have a bright future. But until then, as much as I'm saying see you next season mode for the Quakes, I wouldn't be surprised it might be the same as what we've seen in years past again. Now, moving on in terms of the next match, and now looking at the Sunday game, that is, the two Sunday games, starting off with the Sunday night soccer game between Austin versus the Seattle Sounders. So I mentioned the Loons have had an absolute nightmare of the last games in terms of how it went. That is pretty much the complete opposite of Austin FC. I mean, Austin did it again. It just feels like we're back in 2021, isn't it? With Austin, with the way that, yeah, it feels like we're back in that time where, or actually I say 2021, I meant 2022. That is 2021 is when they came into the league. But yeah, it feels like it's deja vu all over again. We're back in that 2022 era where Austin has always shown that incredible resilience of able to come from behind and able to get some late goals to help their cause. And here we go again in this one against the Sounders. Despite the fact that I thought this game was really up for grabs for both of these teams, and I feel like this game could have gone either way as well. Vargas had the first shot of the game, but he hits it right to Stuver in the 10th minute. Not much really happened, at least in the beginning of this game. That would quickly change though as we head into the second half. Stuver would then deny Rodon as he was able to deflect that one on to the post. Seattle definitely started to control this game and tried to get themselves the opening goal, but instead, the opening goal came from Los Verdes as Diego Rubio, which scored to give Austin a 1-0 lead, just completely against the run of play as well. And also just came off of a WTF turnover from Seattle, and most specifically Jackson Reagan. I mean, that is probably one of the last player that I would have assumed that he was going to commit a WTF turnover, considering Reagan has been very solid at the back for Seattle for the past couple of years. But here he coughed the ball away in the worst possible position, and Rubio picks it up, says thank you very much. He's going to just go 1v1 and beat Thomas there, and just like that, Austin lead 1-0 in this one. Nuhu did look to respond, but he missed high in the third minute of stoppage time. Before in the fourth minute of stoppage time, Thomas denied Uzuni from close range. So we do head to halftime with Austin leading 1-0. That lead quickly disappeared in the second half. In fact, 46 seconds in, and this kind of feels like it's something we saw with 2021 Austin as well, where they tends to always give up goals very early coming out of the break. It happened again in this one as Manungu would score from Muswaski and Rodon to tie the game up at one apiece. Manungu just came in as a halftime sub as well, and that probably was his first touch as well. Talk about an impact sub for Brian Schmitz. Rubio did look to answer, but he hits it right to Thomas on the volley before Vargas would put it wide from close in the 54th minute, and then Ilie would put it over from long range. Both of these teams were definitely exchanging some chances, and we're looking for the opener. That would kind of be something we'll see for the rest of the game. Stuver would then deny Morris from close range before Reagan hits it wide from close in the 61st minute, trying to make amends of that bad giveaway that cost his team a goal. Stuver would then absolutely rob Morris on a 1v1 opportunity. Yeah, Jordan Morris is going to have nightmares of Brad Stuver after this game, because there were a couple times where he was just absolutely stonewalled by Stuver. And speaking of which, feels like Stuver is at it again. We've seen this happen with Brad Stuver, a guy that, again, won't be surprised he might be in contention for goalkeeper of the year, especially of how many times he have done this in a game where making some big save after big save to steal one for Austin. Uduni would then puts it high from long range in the 83rd minute, and then in the 86th, Stuver would absolutely rob Manungu from point blank effort. I mean, it got to a point where I'm just thinking, yeah, it feels like Stuver is not going to give up another goal no matter what Seattle try to do. So in the 87th minute, Bakari would hit it right to Thomas. Almost said Berkey there as well. Berkey doesn't play for Austin. He played for St. Louis. But in the 7 minute stoppage time, Thomas would deny forgery on the header as well. So CJ Fortry trying to do another late heroic just like he did against Minnesota in the US Open Cup semifinal. Didn't happen because Thomas comes up big. And again, Thomas, it feels like he's a not so fast because as much as Stuver's getting all the glory, he's also making some big save to keep his team in the game. And it just kind of getting to a point where it's like, can one of these teams finally beat one of these goalkeeper before time expired? Because it feels like both of these goalkeeper has been putting on a show in terms of a goalkeeping duel. But in the 6 minute of stoppage time, Thomas was beaten because Uzuni would score from Fodry and Pereira to make it 2-1 in favor of Austin FC. So how about CJ Fodry? What a week it's been for him, scoring the late winner in the U.S. Open Cup semifinal against Minnesota, and now getting on the assist chart as well, and pretty much setting Uzuni with a tap in there in the 6 minute of stoppage time. But yeah, in the end, Austin with a big 2-1 win in this one over the Sounders. They're definitely rising up the standings as we speak. 17 shots compared to 10 that Austin has in this one. Both teams had 6 shots on goal, 3 shots off target compared to 4 that Seattle had, 6 shots that was blocked for the 1 that Austin has, and possession-wise, 55% possession compared to 45% possession that Austin has. And while Austin is definitely heading up on the high, you can't say the same thing about the Seattle Sounders. And this is very strange to say about the Seattle Sounders with the way that they're usually around this time of the period. Brian Schmidt's team would usually get themselves in a good run of form heading into playoffs, but it's kind of the opposite this time. They've been going the wrong direction, and it really feels like that Leeds Cup win, as much as it's a great win for them, especially beating the almighty Inter Miami in a cup final like this. I mean, you just kind of feel like that Leeds Cup run maybe is where they are at the top of the roller coaster, because ever since then it's been kind of gone downhill for this team to a point where it's hard to believe for a team that we thought that could be an MLS Cup contender because of how good they play in the Leeds Cup, and even before the Leeds Cup began, that things are kind of starting to fall apart for them. And what's even crazier to say is the fact that they have Jordan Morris back in the starting 11. You would have assumed the fact that when they get some of their starters back in this team, that they would be better than what they should be before, but it's the complete opposite. I mean, they're going through a decline to a point where you're probably not going to get home field advantage in the playoffs, and especially if they do face against this next team I'll talk about, that could be bad news, because moving on into the next game, and if the playoffs started today, LAFC of course would meet the Seattle Sounders in the best of 3 series, with LAFC getting the home field advantage, and LAFC will be licking their chops in terms of want to get revenge for what happened last year as well. And judging by the form that both of these teams in, it feels like LAFC most likely could get that revenge, because they did it again. They won 4-1 against RSL in this game, and in many ways, this was almost kind of a carbon copy of the game we just saw a couple of days ago, where LAFC with the help of Sung Him Min and Bawanga being the two-headed monster, able to score the goals against RSL, and RSL, despite having their opportunity in this game, it looked like they were in this game for a bit, especially in the second half. Yeah, again, they just cannot stop Bawanga and Sung Min in this one. And once again, just like the last game, they gave up a hat trick to an LAFC player. In the first half, Gozo with the game's first shot, but he puts it over from long range before the first shot for LAFC. Saw Bawanga hits one that was spilled by Cabral, but luckily he was able to gather on the second attempt. Bureau would then hits it over from close in the ninth minute before Cruz would hits it right to Lariz, as I thought it was a lively start to this game. Both of these teams were definitely getting some chances, trying to get the opener from the get-go. And in the 14th minute, we do have the opening goal. And it's actually RSL the one that got the opening goal, as Brian Vera scored an absolute golazo from Caliscan and Catranes. The golazo that he scored and the golazo that Pardo scored, boy, it's going to be very tough to decide who's going to win the goal of the week, because both of those goals were absolute banger of a goal that deserved to be goal of the week contention. Sung did look to answer, but he was denied by Cabral before the post, denying Tafari on the header from close range. So LAFC, they waste no time to respond relatively quickly. They definitely were not phased when it comes to giving up a banger of a goal that RSL scored in the 14th minute. Cabral would then deny Bawanga in the near post before Bawanga would put it over from long range, and then he hits it right to Cabral in the 38th minute from long range as well, as LAFC is definitely piling on the pressure. But now the question is, can they get that equalizer? Because we've seen this before with LAFC, especially at home this season, where they are putting the pressure, but not getting that goal until very late or not at all in a game is going to really frustrate their fan base again. Luckily for them, that was not to be because they finally got that equalizer, a much deserved equalizer, as Bawanga would score from Sung to tie the game up at one apiece, and then just 2 minutes later, they would get the lead as Sung Hyun Min, pretty much RSL worst nightmare now because literally all the goals that Sung Hyun Min has scored against RSL have been very identical. It's been kind of like a little curler of a shot from long range that, yeah, RSL just had no answer in terms of dealing with. But yeah, here he scored for Martinez to make it 2-1 in this game, and in a blink of an eye, LAFC had completely turned this game around. And you kind of saw that that was the case. I mean, with all the pressure that LAFC has put, you just feel like they just need one goal to go in, and next thing you know, the dam will broke, and the dam have definitely broke in this one. LAFC has just completely turned this game around in a span 2 minutes, and they do head to halftime with a 2-1 lead. In the second half, Cruz would miss one high from long range before Cabral denied Song from long range in the 52nd minute. Tillman would then puts it wide from the curler or from the corner that is. OAFC was definitely picking up where they left off, trying to press for the third goal as well. Luna had a shot that was tipped over by Lloris in the 67 before Gonzalez had a shot that was deflected and goes wide. And all of a sudden, RSL says not so fast because as much as LAFC has all the momentum, they were looking to try to get themselves back into this game. However, in the 73rd minute, Bawanga would make history. So he scored here for Marlon and Song to make it 3-1 in favor of LAFC. And the reason why I say it's a historic moment for Bawanga after a vintage LAFC transitional attack, Bawanga becomes the first player in MLS history to score 20 goals in 3 consecutive seasons. What a player he has been throughout this season. I mean, the fact that he's been able to do that and nobody has been able to do that just to shows you how impressive he is, and the fact that he also have not won the MVP at all this season. I mean, forget about Sam Surridge and Anders Stryer or even Lionel Messi in terms of the MVP conversation. Why not Bawanga? Because Bawanga has now got 20 plus goal. He's now in the mix of the Golden Boot race as well. Gozo did look to respond, but he hits it right to Lloris. But in the 83rd minute, Bawanga would cap off an historic night with a hat trick. So he scored here from Mbosi to make it 4-1 in favor of LAFC, and that would be the final score of this game. As the shots in this one, 21 shots compared to 15 that LAFC had, 9 shots on goal compared to 4 the RSL had, 6 shots off target compared to 3 that LAFC had, 2 shots out of block compared to 9 the RSL had, and possession-wise, 55% possession compared to 45% possession that LAFC has in this one. So yeah, LAFC these last 2 games, I tell you what, I think they wish they could play RSL every single week because if they can play RSL every single week, they'll definitely catch up in the Western Conference and maybe even get themselves in the top 3 or top 2 by the end of this season. But alas, unfortunately, they can only play them 2 times, and in these 2 meetings, a combined score of 8-2 and two very similar outcome. And for RSL again, it's kind of like the complete opposite. They're probably very happy that they don't have to play LAFC for the rest of the season, but unfortunately, just like the Quakes, they're heading the wrong direction in the playoff race. I mean, as much as they're still kind of within touching distance as well, losing 4-1 in back-to-back game, and even if it's against a good team or a team that they never have a good history against, that is not going to help RSL causes in terms of the playoff race, and the only thing that you can hope for them is have a bounce back performance heading into the next game. Because unlike the Quakes have a very tough schedule, I think RSL have a little bit easier schedule for the remaining. So there is maybe a little bit of a hope that they could get themselves back in the playoff. Well, not get themselves back in the playoff race, but get themselves above the playoff line. That is, but it's kind of hard to do so because, like I said, Dallas. It feels like they're starting to kind of take the scuff of the neck in terms of the playoff race, and Houston is also kind of just sticking around in terms of the playoff race as well. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review of all of these games from match week number 35. Like I said earlier in this beginning of the video, I'll be doing the review of the 2 games that will happen tomorrow, but I'll also be doing the moving forward series and also looking at Charlotte 9 game winning streak as well. As I mentioned, I was going to do a video about that because it's been a long time since we have seen a team winning 9 in a row and get that record current amount of point in the poll shootout era for the longest winning streak in MLS, and with Charlotte reaching that mark, that ultimately, of course, came to an end on Saturday. Obviously, I'm gonna have to do a video talking about that. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.